Hi guys, welcome once again to Otto's Garage. Hello. Okay, what we've done is got the final paint on the shell now, so I'm quite happy with what we've got there. The next step is going to be before we start bolting stuff on it, because obviously on the underside, although it's painted, there's no rust proofing under there at all. And I don't really want to start sticking stuff on and then have to start spraying a load of stuff to wax proof it. What we're going to do is we're going to use one of these, which is a Gravitex gun, and we're going to use the Gravitex solution to basically get on the underside of the car and into the wheel arches. So we've got a couple of boards down there just to catch the solution from dripping. I'm not sure what it's going to do. Run everywhere, stick on the car, or just fall on the floor. So we just thought I'd do that. But the Gravitex, the U-Pole Gravitex, they're basically underbody coating stone chip protectors, over paintable. But this is actually a white solution. So I'm hoping that I haven't going to have to put a load of white paint on top of it again afterwards. I've got to warm that up, get the gun onto it, and then basically we'll have a go at spraying onto some of these arches and seeing what she looks like. Right, here we are. So we've got the gun, we've got the cartridge on the bottom there with the Blanco white, and basically air pressure is running at about 50 to 60 psi, something like that. Just giving us a bit of spray on this cardboard here, just so we can see what it looks like. So basically it's coming out with like a wrinkled finish, which you probably find that if you have a look under your wheel arch on your general home car, that's the kind of finish that you're going to get off it basically. So we'll give that a go on the arch and we'll just see what she looks like, I think. It's getting quite a nice finish there, and you can see how that wrinkle finish goes onto it afterwards. It is oversprayable, so if I don't like that colour, I can see that's quite a creamy colour, although to be fair it's going to be on the underside of the car. I can always whiz over it with the Bianco 210 afterwards anyway, but we'll fill that arch up, we'll have a look at it and we'll see how we get on. Well, just had that respirator on. It's not particularly horrendous, the chemical, but it does smell. So it's just nice to have a respirator that can do that. So there she is with that first arch done on that, and it's given quite a nice little finish really. It's a bit stone chippy looking, but yeah, I like that. And the great thing about it as well is that any of those little patches that we've put on, there's been a bit of welding and stuff, it kind of covers up all those little seams, which, it doesn't really matter what they look like, but if they can be covered up, it'll look nicer. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. We've got underneath it as well. That's one can basically, is done basically the underside of the boot, this arch, and probably about a third of the way along the floor as well. So I've got 6 cans of that. I'm just going to keep cracking on with that. We'll get that in, and then we'll have a look and see what she looks like at the end. Right, I've used 2 of the tubes up now, basically been able to do pretty much most of the underside. I've just flicked the car over now so we can have a look and get it from a different angle, because obviously some of the seams, you're trying to spray it upside down, it doesn't like working like that. It does kind of flick back to a query that somebody asked me a while back, was that when you have the car dipped and all of the acid takes out all of that seam sealer in there. So what I'm able to do now with the Gravitex gun is blow some of that sealant back in between those seams on the car. So for example, you can see here where basically being able to get in underneath it and spray it in between there right the way along. So I'm trying to do that right the way around the car as best I can. The other query that I'm sure we're going to get asked is, well, why are you putting all that stuff in there after it's been dipped and stripped off and you're adding weight to it? But at the end of the day, it's a Lancia, and I do want to use more than one season racing with this car. So we do need to look after it and make sure that the rust keeps at bay. So that's why I'm putting it back on there. Purists might say strip it all off, super light, blah, blah, blah. But like I say, I do want to look after it. There's not many of these left at the moment. Well, there it is. We've got it on. It's coated right the way through. I'm very impressed with that actually. It's a nice product to work with. Gives a nice finish, and it's great for getting into the seams. You know, so like around here you can see, managed to get right the way in there. So very impressive. Managed to get the whole of the bottom of the car done now. So the great thing now is that I can just leave that for a few days. It's going to go off. I mean, it goes off very quickly anyway, but it does mean at least that when I get back onto the job, we can start putting some parts on there, and we're not having to mess around with trying to get you know, the stone chip stuff around after we've fitted some nice looking parts. So let's see how she goes. Okay, so I've got the stone chip on, and all I've just done is give it another coat of the Bianco 210 just over the top of it, so that now as you look at it, you've lost that kind of creamy colour that it had before, and it all looks the same colour as the rest of the shell. So that is the end of the undersealing and bodywork paint, which is a great milestone. So there she is, it's all painted. I've dropped it down onto the sill stands at the moment, but I've still got the jig on, and that's a good thing, because what I could really do with now is just flicking it over, because what I want to do first is fit the rear subframe. So this is a purpose-built item. It's obviously not the standard one that normally comes with the old Lancia. And this is actually hard bolted to the chassis, so we haven't got any bushings going in there. So just basically there's a couple of bolts that go in. It goes into the same factory position that the original subframe goes on, but obviously this is a lot stronger. And so this is from Walker's up in Yorkshire. And they're obviously specialists in integrale stuff, so we know, and I've had it on already, so I do know it's going to fit. So let's get it flicked over, get it bolted up, and let's see what she looks like. That's it offered up into position. I've just cleaned out the threads where they go into the chassis rail there. I've obviously got a bit of paint in them and stuff as we've done that. So I've just backed them in and out a few times with some WD, and then I've just put some copper ease grease on the threads as well, so hopefully that should stop them from having a problem in the future. But I'm just going to wind this in a little bit now, just so that she's in the right place, and then what we'll have to do is get the torque wrench on it and make sure she's actually done up to the correct strength, obviously. But at least that's got that in for now anyway, so that's looking pretty good. Happy days. Right, we can build some other stuff off that, and then see what she looks like. So with the cradle on the car, the other thing that I've got to do obviously is fix the those little triangular things with the little things that come out of them. They have 3 studs like that, and the thing goes up and down in the middle of it. Right, with the diff cradle on the car, the other thing we've got to do, obviously, the diff mounts onto a pair of brackets which hold bushes on. So what I've done is I've recovered these off the original diff housing, but they have got the original rubber bushings in there. They look okay, but to be fair, I think what we'll do is we'll press those out, and we'll get some polyflex bushes in there, and then basically we'll know that's all good. I can fit those while the diff's on it. You know, it's only a matter of getting over to the top to fit the 3 knots, so I don't think there's going to be a major issue with retrofitting those with the diff cradle already in position. So, rear suspension. BC Racing coilovers, got these all round obviously. What we're going to do though is on the bottom of the shock, where it goes into the lower part which attaches onto the hub, basically you can adjust the ride height of the car by adjusting this nut up and down without adjusting the spring rate. Normally people will adjust a spring rate, say on a McPherson strut, but obviously to adjust the ride height on that, you affect the compression rate of the spring, which isn't ideal. So on these you can adjust the ride height by adjusting this knurled knot here. However, there is a bit of an issue with these, because when you're running them all the time on the road, grime, dirt and ultimately salt and crap like that can go down into the leg basically, and then this all corrodes down here. So what we will do is, when we've got the final position sorted out, this can have a bit of copperies grease put around there, and then this can lock down onto it to hold it in place, and that should stop or at least limit the amount of rubbish going down into that leg, and hopefully alleviate any seizing in the future. So what we need to do now is we're going to drop those on. Right, that's got those in there. So I've just put those in both sides. What I'm going to do now is just flick the car back up over, and we can have a look at putting the hubs in. I've got the rear suspension components here. So this is the rear hubs and the control arm, and also the fabricated wishbones, really, or the push rods, whichever you want to call them, which I made in a previous video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just trial fit these, and I'm going to use some of the old bolts. Now these are obviously they're not brilliant, but they are just going to give me an idea of what goes where, so I can actually measure up the correct length of bolt that I need, because I'm going to replace all the bolts on there anyway. But at least it'll give me an idea of exactly how long those bolts have got to go to when I've got all the components together. Okay. So what I've found now is, and this is why I really wanted to just use the old bolts, I mean, some of them obviously that's going to be the length it's going to be, there's nothing else going on there. But when we come around to where I've fabricated these arms, obviously the one that goes through the hub carrier, that's a specific length, rather than, you know, when the factory arms are on, they're much wider, and obviously all we've got now is a rose joint at each end of that. So the bolt is going to be way too long, you know, to accommodate the thinner rose joints. They will need spacing off the hub, so we're going to have little spaces each side of that, just to try and maintain clearance for when the arm's moving, that it doesn't foul on anything. But especially down the back here, we've got a strut brace. I'm just going to move back a bit so you can see that. Sorry, not a strut brace, a diff brace, which is an OMP item, which goes onto the back of the carrier, and again it lets you bolt it onto a standard arm, so we've got a substantial width there. Now obviously at the moment we've got loads of movement on that, so again that's going to have to be spaced out. But what it does mean is that I think that this bolt basically is going to be a little on the short side, so I may have to get a longer high tensile bolt to run through the back there and to pick up the front arm. There's not enough length on that now, and I can't pull this further across anymore, because obviously that's located on the anti-roll bar chassis bolts at each side of it. So it's always a good idea to have a little bit of, you know, just trying to get stuff where you think it's going to go, so you can just determine the exact length of some of these bolts that we need. I didn't want to buy a load of bolts and then find they were the wrong length. But yeah, that's looking quite good. At least everything does fit there. You know, you can see how it's all going to look at the end of the day. But I just need to get some decent bolts, and then we can start to actually finally assembling it. Okay, so with that in mind, I've got some bolts I've got to go and pick up. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to say thanks for watching Otto's Garage. See you on the next episode. Let's see if we can't get some more shiny bits fitted and get it onto its wheels. See you later. Bye bye!